All right. Hello, my friends. We are live. Welcome into B2B Mentors. We're going to get this show rolling. I've got my guest here behind the scenes. Make sure you're seeing this. We bring you any value today. Share this feed. All right. Drop your comments, questions. I can see those throughout the live stream here. Make sure you go check out the podcast on all your favorite podcast apps. And do not forget, we are launched and have launched our 15-day LinkedIn challenge. So if you want to learn how to get 6 figures worth of sales into your pipeline very very quickly, rapidly leveraging that 15-day challenge, go get signed up. The link is attached to the live stream. With that, I see Matt. What's up, bro? How's it going?
What's up, Connor? How are you, man? I'm excited about this.
Had to get a little rhyme in there to get us rolling.
I like it.
Pretty proud of myself on that one. Doing awesome, man. How are things going on your end? Where are you based out of?
I'm in North Dallas, Texas, a little town called McKinney, and we're ready to get 2021 going, man. It's exciting, and I'm super pumped to be here with you to get the year started.
Yeah, absolutely. What better way to kick off the year than to mastermind and strategize and ideate on sales? I mean, it's favorite topic, man.
Exactly.
Nothing better. And you've been in sales for a while, right? Give us a little bit of your background and please just brag about yourself a little bit for everybody.
Yeah, that's something I'm not good at, Connor. But yeah, I've been in sales my entire career. I actually I started on the phones a week after I graduated back in 1996 to date myself. And I went right into the Long Island stockbroker frenzy at the time and started to make 300 phone calls a day, cold calling Dun & Bradstreet leads like you see in the movies, and learned a lot of basic fundamentals then that I still use today. But from there, I was a stockbroker for a few years, and then I was actually in collections, talk about kind of opposite end of the spectrum, and collected on credit card debt for 5.5 years.
Oh, yeah. People love it when you're calling them on that, huh?
Oh, yeah. Saturday mornings were awesome. There was a lot of colorful language when I called people, getting them out of bed. But it was a great time. Learned a lot of really good stuff. And then I transitioned into the equipment finance business. I opened up a branch office of a company that was recently acquired by CAT a couple of years ago. And that was a lot of fun. Survived the credit crunch. And then I followed my intuition and moved into technology. Did a year at T-Mobile, and then moved over to CA Technologies and helped really relaunch inside sales there. Went over to HPE for a couple of years running a channel sales team, and learned the channel. That was a lot of fun. Spent a couple of years at ThoughtSpot doing the startup thing, and had a great run there. Now we're at RealPage, helping owner-operators and property management companies transition into digital leasing and really kind of find hidden yield and optimize our NOI. So it's been great. My entire life has basically been trying to sell product and deliver services over the phone. So in today's virtual and working environment, there's never been a more important time, in my opinion, to do that effectively.
And if you got the experience, you just kind of fit right into it. And it's the best entrepreneurs, salespeople, marketers that I've met and talked to over the years. It's like we all had that real shitty experience in early days of like really, like I did door-to-door sales for 2.5 years to pay my way through college, and I cold called people in high school to sell insurance policies with Allstate and everything. So it's like if you can overcome that and like overcome those hurdles, man, you can do 6, 7, 8 figure deals B2B.
Absolutely. And I think some folks will say, making your bones. Other people say putting your time in. But I think for me anyway, the resilience, the grit, the determination that you need to show in order to get through some of those early in career opportunities will either make you or break you, right? And folks that I know that have had some of those tougher experiences early in their career, or more grind type of opportunities early in their career, they flourish through those, and the sky's the limit. To your point, and a number of folks that I've had the benefit of working with or having on my teams have become tremendous entrepreneurs. They've started their own businesses. They've become those 6-7 figure producers at enterprise software companies, and it all started with overcoming those early in career challenging opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. So and despite the challenges of last year, obvious challenges of last year, you still had a pretty good year. What did you do? What helped you to be continuously successful in sales and overcoming the sales challenges of 2020? And it ain't going to end in 2021 either.
Yeah, I think so. A couple things. I think the first and foremost, it's the people that you surround yourself with. So I think we did a very, very good job before my arrival at RealPage, and then continuing on through the rest of our hiring frenzy, bringing on a number of very talented people that were just committed to making it happen. But the other piece of this, Connor, is that I survived 2008. Right when the world economy was literally melting down. I remember being on a fishing boat watching CNBC when some of the big investment banks literally declared bankruptcy, and we were worried about what life would be like when we got back to land the next day. But there was a lot of muscle memory in there, and it was like, okay, don't panic. The market's going to melt down. People are going to say that the sky is falling, but stay on the path. And over the course of time, we'll normalize. And I'm not going to say that we've fully recovered, because we haven't. There's still a lot of chaos going on in the world. But I think there was that muscle memory about, don't necessarily panic. We're not going to go off a cliff. It's going to be hard, but we'll get through it. And we've made a number of adjustments to our business, both product selection and go-to-markets. And we've just been on the rise.
Yeah, and you mentioned a number of habits and ways that you keep that mentality, because there's so many who have been in those difficult situations as well and didn't come up on top. Mm-hmm. And so what are some of those habits that you, as just a sales leader, as an entrepreneur, side hustler galore, like what are your regular habits that keep you focused on the bigger picture?
Great question. I think a really thoughtful, personalized, and well-executed morning routine is absolutely critical, right? So when I was at CA Technologies, this was 2011 through 2014, I was like 300-something pounds, man. And
really?
I was measuring.
I couldn't even imagine you after. Wait, how tall are you again?
6'2".
You're 6, yeah, and you're a tall dude too.
So I was measuring my success and my contribution to the business by how many hours a day I was in front of the computer. So at the office, get home, have dinner, say hello to my kids, put them to bed, get back in front of the computer, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning. And, but I was shoving cookies in my face and late night bowls of cereal. And when I worked on the weekends, it'd be a couple of cocktails with me. And all of a sudden I looked around, I was like, wow, this has got to stop. And shortly after I moved to Texas, I fell in love with podcasting. And I think like Tim Ferriss is probably one of the more influential ones, where 80% of top performers that the man ever interviewed had some sort of meditation practice. And I was like, let's go try that, right? So I did, and then got active, and I still work out 6 or 7 days a week. So by 7 or 7:30 in the morning, I've gone through my meditation practice. I've looked through a couple of important books or blogs that I get a lot of value from. I've gone to the gym. I use intermittent fasting to just kind of keep the brain going and the body functioning properly. And those types of, I think, life behaviors propel you forward into whatever you want to do professionally or personally.
So it was getting content from somewhere else that clicked for you to make that shift.
Yeah, and it was almost like a rabbit hole. I've been thinking about this lately, Connor, is, in 2015, I did my first Spartan race, and I found out shortly thereafter that Spartan had a podcast, so I listened to the Spartan podcast, and on the Spartan podcast, I heard the interview with Tim Ferriss, and he seemed like a really interesting guy. So I started to listen to the Tim Ferriss show, and I listened to all these other really interesting people, and you just start, I started listening to it for motivation, and I'm like, dude, you're pretty fired up. Why don't you actually do some of the stuff they talk about doing? And I think that's really when lightning happened. So I would just encourage everybody, like, find something and dig in and go down the rabbit hole. Try new things. I think there's a lot of motivational stuff out there, but memes don't get the job done, right? You actually have to get in, make the personal change, commit to it, and make stuff happen.
Yeah, motivation don't mean squat unless you're taking action on it.
Exactly.
It's nothing. Yeah, I remember going through that process too, and I've talked about going through like spouts of depression, anxiety, suicidal at a pretty young, or my later teenage years. And one of the key change shifts is that morning habit. But it's like it's such a, you got to get over that hump of like, okay, I'm motivated, I'm listening to motivating material. Now, how do I actually take action on it? And I think you hit it. I mean, just starting with a morning routine and meditation, super crucial. I'm curious, what kind of meditation do you follow? Is it like guided? Do you do YouTube videos, or what do you typically practice?
I'm a huge Headspace fan, and I've done every single course on Headspace probably 4 or 5 times at this point. There's something about Andy's voice that is super interesting. And by the way, like, if you haven't seen any interviews with Andy Puttycombe, the founder of Headspace, fascinating guy. But yeah, I listen to Andy every day. I've tried Calm, I've tried a couple of other ones, but I keep coming back to Headspace. But I think the other thing that meditation and mindfulness has taught me is that there are a lot of times throughout the course of the day, every day, where something just happens and you need to recognize it in its purest state, right? The sun comes through the clouds, or something good happens at work, or somebody says something nice to you, or you get a compliment out of nowhere, or somebody on your team just does something really well. And I think mindfulness just kind of sharpens that awareness to appreciate the little things as they happen and celebrate them where possible, rather than just waiting for these big kind of life-changing experiences all the time.
Yeah, and it's like those small things too, of even like, I'm stressed today, I'm anxious today, or you wake up in a panic, or you're just scrambling to get proposals together, whatever it is. It's like, just that little thought, and that comes from meditate. I use Headspace too. I've been using Headspace for years. And do you find now almost you don't even really need the app? You can kind of get yourself into that, or do you still use the app pretty regularly?
I use it every day. It every day. But yeah, to your point, I think when you start to do the courses over and over again, or you really kind of listen to the preface to each chapter where Andy's giving a few minutes worth of kind of insights, it's really important. And you start to pick up on it, and you start to hear it subliminally, or you pick up on it subliminally, and then you kind of play it back. But I think for me anyway, like, I'm an emotional guy. I love to shout from the rooftops when you have a win, but you go down in the dumps when you lose that deal at the end of the month, or the end of the quarter, or a deal pushes, or just something bad happens in life. But I think mindfulness and meditation really kind of helps you control the peaks and the valleys. So maybe you don't get all the way to 10 when something great happens. Maybe you go to a 6 or a 7, but that means too, when something bad happens, you're not going to -10. Maybe you're at -2 or -3, or maybe you stay at 0. Right? And you just learn that, like, sometimes things aren't going to go your way. You don't need to go sideways about it. Just keep going, right? I think that's the whole thing, especially today with what everybody's going through globally, is just take it one day at a time. Just keep going, right? Stay resilient, keep your chin up. Things will get better over time. I'm an optimist by nature, but just keep going.
That's I mean, theme of I did a live stream the other day is like 3 feet from gold. I'm sure you've read Think and Grow Rich, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it's like the theme of 2021 is you could literally be 3 feet from gold right now, and just that one piece of information, that one pivot, that 3 feet literally in the opposite direction, then boom, you've tapped into that vein of gold that's been there waiting for you the whole time.
Exactly right.
And I think people get so stuck up on that action and moving forward, and having those habits, and you're just stuck, and you can't, whether you're an entrepreneur, you're an intrapreneur, the most success, the difference is who you're listening to, like Matt, who's making big wins, is those habits. And you'll find if you talk to more people like Matt, is really those habits, like not how do you close, how do you open, how do you prospect, all that good stuff. It starts completely with those habits.
Yeah, exactly. But I think you touched on a couple of things there, right? Prospecting is a habit. Prospecting is a habit that everyone, regardless of quota, seniority, and whatever, right, needs to do, right? And in order to do it, you have to be good at it, right? If you're going to do it, you might as well be good at it. And I think like that's a whole other thing where habits, making your bed, intermittent fasting, meditating, whatever it is, have those same habits in business, right? It makes very little sense to have great habits outside of the office, the way you eat, the way you sleep, the way you take care of yourself, however many days you go to the gym, and not have those kind of same regimented habits while you're at work, right? Time blocking, prospecting, cultivating, following up on leads, following up on customers, saying hi, right? Calling people in your network, and just to say hi. I listened to an interview recently, Jordan Harbinger, where he's like got a CRM for people in his network. And every 3 months or 6 months, I forget the interval, he just calls and says hi. And he said something really important. He said, nobody has ever said to me, why do you always call me 90 days apart? Right? It's the CRM telling him to do that. They're just happy to hear from him, right? So why don't we build those types of habits and practices? I'm not great at it, right? It's an area of opportunity, but I think if we instill that same kind of approach, it has its benefits.
Well, and I think in sales too, it's in your mind, you're thinking, okay, I want to try to get some business with this person. And then you just jump straight into that and burn the actual real relationship, which has to be behind it to close sales. But if you can approach it like, this is a friend, as someone who I found I'm interested in, we're just connecting, those conversations lead there anyways. It's like you're almost too focused on the end result, and then the end result never happens.
Yep, exactly. And I think what you just said really resonates with me, because I think it's natural for us as salespeople when we're prospecting. It's like, hey, Connor, this is Matt from RealPage. How are you doing? Right? And then regardless of the answer, it's like, okay, great. Well, the reason for my call is this, right? And like, how much more human is it for me to say, hey, Connor, how are you? And then just shut up, right? And just listen. I mean, you could be having a great day. You could be having a bad day. But I think what this kind of period of containment, this quarantine that everybody's been in, is the human-to-human connection is more important than ever. Right? I just got some terrible news about a former teammate of mine yesterday. Absolutely terrible. And it compelled me to reach out to her. She reached out to me a couple of weeks ago. But people are struggling with things right now. Certain people are doing great. Jeff Bezos isn't complaining about much right now, right? There's a lot of people that are doing fantastic. But ask the simple question, 3 words: how are you? And then shut up and listen. Right? We can't be scripted in today's environment. We have to lead with empathy. We have to care. I think John Barrow says it all the time, like, you have to give a shit, right? And that right now, that's more important than ever.
100%. And break that down a bit further. I've titled this "How to Be Effective at Sales Before Efficient." What does that mean? And actually, like, how you've been very transformative in the sales teams and the sales leadership roles that you're at, and you've shared some wins with your current team. So break that down a bit further for us.
Yeah. So I'm a big believer in first right, then quit, or be effective first, then be efficient. And I think what's happened specifically, in the last couple of years, thanks to some fantastic technology that's come to the market, is it's all become do more, do more, do more, do more. And the focus has almost shifted away from quality and more into how many touches can I do per day? How many emails can I send out per day or per week? But we've got to come back to let's lead with quality, because you never get a chance as anyone to make a first impression. Everything from email formatting to the importance of basics like voice inflection, pausing, objection handling, opening value statements, an inventory of quality voicemails that your salespeople can use. These are all really, really important. I get pummeled on LinkedIn every day by people wanting to sell me anything under the sun. What's funny is that I get a lot of folks approaching my inbox on LinkedIn about outsourced sales teams, and I don't know if they realize what it is that my teams and I do. But they're all the same. 90% of them follow the same format. It's an opening value statement that has nothing to do with me or my business. It's all about them and the products they sell. The second one is, hey, just bumping this to the top of your inbox because I'm sure you're busy. The third one is, maybe my value prop isn't interesting to you. Can you refer me to someone else? And then the fourth one is just usual total trash. We've got to stop doing that. And as leaders, it's our job to train people to do things the right way.
You're saying that's how most people go about it. What you just mentioned, those lines, that's how most people are going about it?
And from what I'm seeing, right, by how people prospect into me, that's become the norm, right? And I think we've got to go back as sales leaders and teach the basics of like a veto letter. Like 7 or 8 years ago, when I was at CA, the veto letter from Selling to Veto was the best. It was 3 sentences, 3 bullets, and an ask. And the executive that you were selling it to could read it on her iPhone, right? Now we come up with pages of stuff that's not personal at all, right? So I think we've got to come back to being effective before worrying about being efficient. Learn how to be successful in today's environment without the technology first. And then use the technology once you have the best behaviors and the most effective messaging pegged, because then you'll really amplify your success, right? And I'm not saying everyone's doing this, don't get me wrong, but I think there's a lot of, let's create this marketing message, let's put it into a sales acceleration tool, let's blast it out as much as possible, regardless of persona, regardless of vertical. There's little, if any, personalization built in. And I think we as sales leaders owe it to our sales teams to help them do that better. And frankly, our prospects and customers to just, get rid of the noise.
Yeah, we talked about that. In it, very slippery slope is we live in the most technologically advanced time for sellers. Mm-hmm. They've got AI tools and email scripting tools. And then you go to and ask CEOs, and I hear from, the Barrows of the world, and they're like, man, these almost the vast majority of sales teams out there, their quotas are they're not hitting quota. Like, it's actually getting worse.
Yeah.
And so I think you've really pinpointed what that actually is be effective by using the right approach. So how do you do, who's the actual market you're selling to? Like, give us a scenario. Who's the executive?
Yeah, we have a number of different, we have 90 products in our portfolio, right? So we could be selling to a CFO, we could be talking to a CMO, we could be talking to any one of 10 or 12 different personas. But I think it really starts with account research, right? And I would plead with the sales enablement organizations out there, like especially with your early in career folks, put them through account research exercises, right? What are the business drivers that they have? What are the business goals that they have? What are the metrics they're going to use to measure those by? When did we get away from reading the CEO's letter to shareholders or dissecting 10Ks and 10Qs? Like, let's bring some of that stuff back and use that as the core of some of our messaging, right? I think Beck Holland does a fantastic job of this. Huge fan of Beck's, talking about personalization at scale. And again, especially in today's environment, the human-to-human connection, super important. If you're just blasting out some canned marketing message, it's not going to. Sorry, that was a little bit of a tirade, Connor, but bring us back with your next question.
No, bring us more, man. I think it's so important, and they need to hear this from someone who's actually in the trenches, leading a powerful sales team. Um, Stop getting inundated with too many tools. Stop getting sucked into the automation, trying to automate everything. Like, I'd rather hit 10 people in a day in a very impactful way than 10,000 people and it doesn't happen,
Yeah.
versus doing 100 calls. CEOs are imposing, gotta do 100 calls today, man. Gotta do 100 calls today. Gotta log in 100 calls. What if I can hit 10 people and get 3 meetings, or hit 100 people and get 1, or
Right.
5 meetings, or 6 meetings?
I agree. And it's easy to measure towards quantity in the short term, right? It's not necessarily easy to measure towards quality in the short term. When you're measuring towards 100 phone calls a day, at the end of the day today, I could see who hit it and who didn't, and coach or reprimand accordingly. But to your point, a smaller amount of quality messages may not yield results today, but over the course of time, I think that wins, right? I was just talking to Matt Reuter on my team yesterday. It was phenomenal, and I forget where the study came from, but 10% personalization in a message, right, yielded a 4x better conversion rate or response rate. And believe it or not, there's a law of diminishing returns there. So if you go more than 10%, you're not getting that much more of a response rate. So just 10%. If we're hiring people that have the intelligence, the character, the grit, the experience, the motivation to be successful, we can't count on them we need to be able to count on them to personalize those first couple of sentences to the recipient, right? Talk about them, their business, their role, right? Something about their website, something about their last TED Talk, something about their last podcast appearance. It doesn't really take that long. So do it first right, then learn how to do it quickly.
You still do a lot of cold calling now, don't you?
I do some. Not as
Do you
much as I
mostly do you start with LinkedIn, start with emails? What channel do you typically hit that first touch point on?
I usually hit them with all three in one day: a phone call, a LinkedIn, and an email.
So talk about that. What is CFO, for example, right? When you're approaching a CFO completely cold, how is your approach unique? How are you identifying it unique? What kind of script do you typically use for that?
Yeah, I like to refer to them more as frameworks, Connor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think John Barrows has some good frameworks that he uses, kind of role specific and goal oriented. Michael Padone from Sales Buzz, he's got a bunch. Beck's got a bunch. But if I'm calling a CFO and I know that their strategic goal is to grow EBITDA by 5% in 2021, my message is going to be super specific. Like, hey, Connor, this is Matt from RealPage. I have an idea about how to help you increase your EBITDA by 5% in 2021, and I'd like to go over this with you personally. Call me back. Nothing long-winded, nothing really hard, nothing, frankly, all that creative. But executives appreciate curiosity. Executives appreciate the fact that you may have an idea to help them achieve their strategic objectives, right? Maybe you don't get a response the first time, but over the course of time, that's why building an inventory of different messaging is so important. If you're a salesperson today and you don't have anything else to say other than, hey, this is Matt, this is the third time I'm calling you, please call me back, by the third time, I'd say that your sales leadership team has failed you, right? You need to have 6, 8, 10 different frameworks that like your home address, so that prospect doesn't necessarily hear the same thing twice. When I was at T-Mobile, I was prospecting into one of the biggest camera manufacturers at the time, and I called this particular director of IT relentlessly for the better part of 2 months. And he called me back one day and he said, I just emptied my voicemail and I had 22 messages from you. And I owe you a meeting at this point. Can you be here Thursday? Right? But I never said the same thing twice. And there was value, and sometimes it was short and sweet. It was different variations, but you've got to have that toolbox. That is your toolbox. What you say over the phone is just as important a tool in your toolbox as having, the greatest tech stack in the world and having LinkedIn Sales Nav or having SalesLoft or Outreach or VanillaSoft or whatever. But we've gotten away from that. And I think, in my opinion, we've got to get back to that. My team, we train 3 days a week from 9 to 9:30. We call them skill mills. We did them at CA. We did them at ThoughtSpot. We're doing them here. And they're quick, short bursts of high energy way to get the day started. We'll go around the horn and say, how do you respond to when a prospect says, I'm not interested or I have no budget? These are knee-jerk objections. And as sellers, you've got to have a knee-jerk rebuttal to that objection, boom, that you can drop without any sort of hesitation, right? And I think that type of role play and that type of high energy peer-to-peer feedback is really, really important, specifically when you're talking about early in career sales professionals.
100%. Yeah. And you touched on something else that I think is really important too, is the 30 amount of phone calls, however many, whether it's LinkedIn, email, phone, whatever channel you're using. Just because someone doesn't respond doesn't mean they're not interested. Busy, they got so much stuff going on in their life. It's like that one extra touch point could be the one that tips them over. So long as you're not just like, I get them every day too. You get one email and then you get the next email. Hey, did you catch my last email? And then the follow-up email. Hey, I'm assuming, maybe you're busy, maybe you're not interested. Let me know. And then you get that. Hey, Connor, I'm going to fire you as a prospect, because it's like, dude, that's ridiculous. Maybe I'm working on 20 different projects as a business owner. You don't know what the hell's going on the other side.
Yeah. And firing you as my prospect. Okay, so does that mean I don't have to listen to your crappy messages anymore? Awesome. Good job. Let me fire myself, as a matter of fact.
Right.
But
right.
It's funny, because a long time ago, and I got a message like this today, just checking in. Right. So let me get this straight. So you're going to reach out to me to try and sell me something, and you're going to minimize your efforts as you do this. So if you're settling for just on attempt 2 or attempt 3, how much value did you really bring me on attempt number 1? Right. And again, as sales leaders, it's our job to help our team realize that if we have value, let's not minimize ourselves. Right? If we're just checking in on second touch, we have very few tools in our toolbox that we're equipping our sales team with.
It's amazing how many resources there are out there and how minimally people are taking advantage of them. So I'm so glad we got to have this conversation. And before, just in winding down here, Matt, anything else that's actionable, strategic, that you want to share that people can take away from this?
Yeah, I think there's a number of things. Personal development is absolutely key, right? Read books. There's a million podcasts out there. Find one, find a handful, stick to it. Understand that becoming a better professional doesn't mean just knowing sales. Being able to have a conversation with a business person will set you apart from the crowd. It's not that hard to be the tallest tree in the forest right now, right? Read great books. Soak up information across a variety of sources. When you get that C-level executive on the phone, the best way to differentiate yourself is to talk about things other than what you're trying to sell them, right? So know that stuff. But I think one of the other things that
just to pause you on that real quick, that doesn't mean just talk about the trees and the sky and the clouds. It means asking them questions that pose value and they see you as an expert rather than just going on and pitching people.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Not just kind of shooting the shit, because people are super busy. I mean, there's a time and place for that, but just getting on this and saying on a first contact, like, hey, how are you? And they're like, who's this? What do you mean? That comes later, right?
Totally. And I think they prospects and customers today, they just know that you're probably going to come with 2 or 3 different approaches. But if you're able to have a curious, intelligent conversation with them about the state of their business, about the state of their industry or their vertical, or the macroeconomic factors going on right now, let's get away from talking about COVID, because nobody wants to do that anymore, right? We get it. It's bad. We're hoping to get better this year, but stop talking about that. Have intelligent conversations. Know your market, know your industry, right? Know the competitors, but be able to, on a whim, talk about a Tim Ferriss or talk about a sports team. Talk about something productive. Be a human, because we don't just all make cold calls every day, right? But I think one of the things that's probably missing today, Connor, is teaching early in career and even middle career salespeople that they need to amplify themselves. What does that mean? If you're good at sales, chances are you can make a lot of money, right? And my old CRO used to refer to it as athlete money. There are some software salespeople that make athlete money, right? But what do you do with that money? How are we financially educating our salespeople out there? I would say that anyone who sees this podcast, get out there and read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? Get out there and listen to Dave Ramsey. Go out there, subscribe to Bigger Pockets or Jake and Gino, whoever it is, and learn how to amplify your earnings, right? If you're a salesperson, you know how to get in there and prospect, nurture, and close. Use those 3 skills on your own, right? Go invest in a franchise. Go buy some real estate. Go be an expert in stocks. Go invest in Bitcoin, whatever it is. But when you know that you have success in sales, take that money and go put it to work. When your money is working as hard as you are for it, for you, or harder, great things happen. So I'd encourage everybody who sees this, figure out ways to invest in yourself for your day job, invest in yourself in a side hustle, invest in yourself to get more knowledgeable across some sort of disciplines, and go make your money work for you. Because we work hard for it.
Damn hard.
That's right.
Damn hard. Well, awesome, man. Thank you so much. What's the best way for people to find you, follow you? You have a plethora. You know, we talked about books the other day. I'm sure if someone wants to know what kind of materials you're studying, books, all that good stuff, they can reach out to you. What's the best way to find you?
Sure. I'm on LinkedIn, Matt Buchalski. I'm on Twitter at Matt Buchalski99. I have Instagram, I have Facebook. It's not that hard to find me. I'd say start with LinkedIn. I may have to take my contact info down off of LinkedIn after this, but you can find me. I'm not that hard. And whether it's 10 or 15 minutes to just brainstorm, if you need some guidance on something, if you're struggling at the point in your career, reach out to me. I'm happy to talk. I think paying it forward as a sales leader is something that we need to do more for our team. So hit me up. I'm happy to talk.
100%. Beautiful, my friend. Really appreciate it. Stick around for just a minute here. And with that, guys, make sure if you're watching this after the fact, you can also find all the episodes and this episode when we publish it on all your favorite podcast apps. So make sure you go subscribe, leave a 5-star review so others can find the show too. And don't forget to sign up for our 15-day LinkedIn challenge. With that, my friends, thank you. I'll see you over here on the other side.